What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Pirates YouTube channel and podcast network. Noah Hiles coming to you again on a Thursday, which means it's time for another Pirates mailbag, where I answer all of your questions related to all things Pittsburgh Pirates. Before we jump into this week's questions, I want to remind everyone to check out all of our work at post-gazette.com. Get yourself a digital subscription if you don't have one already, and check out our print product. We print on Thursdays and Sundays. So head on over to post-gazette.com. You can read all of our Pirates coverage and everything else we write about at that site. It's not just a baseball site or a sports site. We've got a lot of good stuff on pretty much everything that goes on in this city and its surrounding communities. So head over again to post-gazette.com. Get yourself a digital subscription if you don't have one already, and subscribe to this channel if you don't already as well. All right. Let's jump into some questions. We've got 6 for this episode. We start off with Aaron, who asks, are you concerned about Brian Reynolds, and do you think the organization may be slightly concerned? Or is this a one-off year, almost like the COVID year, and we look at the overall body of work and expect him to rebound next year? I really like this question, Aaron, because I do think the organization should be a little concerned with Brian Reynolds. It's not like panic time yet, but you have to look at the player that Reynolds is projected to be for the rest of his career. Is it safe to assume that his best years are behind him? I don't know. I think definitely as a fielder, I'm not ready to give up on Reynolds as a hitter just yet, but how good of a hitter can he be, or does he need to be, in order to provide the value that the Pirates hope to be getting at this point in his tenure when they signed him to that extension, right? I think so far the extension's been fine, probably not as much value that they probably hope to get since he signed it. I mean, he's been an all-star, he's been productive, but I mean, you look at it, he's kind of regressed every year as a hitter. His OPS has gone down every year since he signed that extension. I think it went up actually a few points last year compared to 23, but I believe it was still sub 800 in both seasons. And this year, it's taken a dramatic dip. And like I said, the fielding is a clear issue. I think he's been better in the field over the last couple of months, but it's not any value. It's just he's not a liability at times, and they need a little bit more from him there. I personally think the best way you can probably get value out of Reynolds is just let him focus on hitting. I think that whenever McCutchen's gone, Reynolds should be the guy that gets the majority of the DH reps, because you have to allow him to do the one thing that he still can do well, which is hit. He hasn't hit well this year. He's had a really good month of August so far, but his overall body of work this season has not been great, especially for what they need him to be. And I think that's the big takeaway here, and why you worry. I think the worry would be when they signed Brian Reynolds, they signed him with the expectation that he could be a top 3, top 2 position player on a playoff team. I don't know if he's capable of that anymore. On a playoff team, he can be a top 2 position player on this team, on this current roster. But if you're going to make the playoffs, you probably need 2 position players who are better than Brian Reynolds, or at least better than what Brian Reynolds has been, even in the years prior where he was an all-star. You need something a little bit more than that. Brian Reynolds, since signing that extension, has been, at best, a solid player. The Pirates were hoping probably for a little bit more than that. And when you look at how his career is progressing, the trajectory, it's not encouraging. And again, I'm not saying it's time to give up on Brian Reynolds, but I do think you need to consider using him in different ways. Let him focus on hitting. See if that bat can get you some value. If you can move him to be your primary DH and he can get back to a 110 OPS plus, get back to being a 25 home run bat, then that's fine. You can justify that contract under those circumstances. But if he can't get back to being an 800 OPS hitter or close to it, get that OPS back up into the 790s, where, again, he was there not long ago. If he can't get back to that level, the Pirates are in trouble. They just cut ties with Brian Hayes, right? They just sold him. They just traded him away to the Reds, essentially to get a fresh start at that position. They felt that they could get something better at third base than what they were getting from Brian Hayes for $7 million a year. I think Reynolds is one more bad season away from a similar mentality having to be explored. I think you give him one more year. And again, I think you have to view him as a DH moving forward. See if he can get that bat going. See if he can be a consistent hitter. I think another problem with Reynolds is he's going to be a lot better if you get him some lineup protection. So go into the offseason, get some established hitters, surround him with established hitters in the lineup, let him just focus on hitting. And if he can hit the way he did last year or in recent years, then you're fine. You're probably not getting, again, the value that you hope to out of that deal, but it's not a complete disaster. But if he struggles next year and he can't be one of the offensive leaders of this club, or if you have to play him in right field and the defense doesn't improve, which I don't think it's safe to assume any improvements on the way, I think this is just who he is as a fielder, then I think you might have to explore a salary dump. Again, I don't think we're there yet, but looking down the road, if the bat doesn't improve next year, then I do think it is time to have legitimate worry about this player. It didn't go as south as fast as the Brian Hayes extension did, but it's hard to feel optimistic about that contract when you look at how Reynolds is aged as a ball player. He's been fine. Heck, not long ago, he was above average. But this was just not a very encouraging season. They needed two guys to really carry the offense this year, Reynolds and Cruz, and both of them regressed. So, and one of them is still on his rookie deal. He's pre-arb until the end of the season. Reynolds is their highest paid position player. So I think that's why you would have some worry. And yeah, next year is a very, very big year for Bryan Reynolds. All right, Eileen wants to know, do you think Kelly handles pitchers differently than Shelton? It will be interesting to see if Keller doesn't fade down the stretch this season under a manager with a different philosophy and approach. I do think Kelly handles the staff a bit differently. I think their game planning has been a lot different under Don Kelly. As far as managing the staff, I think Kelly manages the bullpen differently. Starting rotation, I'm not seeing any huge differences. I mean, people would argue that Kelly's had a pretty quick hook, but I think that again goes into the bullpen where he's been more open to allowing the bullpen to cover more innings, allowing guys. He relies on his long relievers a lot more than Shelton did. Guys like Ashcraft, Majinski, and so maybe that's led to some shorter starts. But as far as Keller's usage is concerned, I don't see any huge differences between the two managers. I think the big thing with Keller last year, I mean, we'll go back. So the last 2 years, he's faded down the stretch. 23 was just the first time he's had to take on that big of a workload. I think he threw 194 innings in 2023. And I just think that, yeah, I mean, Mitch had just figured it out. He hit his stride in the back end of 2022. He kept it rolling into 2023. He had a first half that was good enough to get him an all-star nod. And then at the end of the season, I think he just ran out of gas, which isn't great, but is a little easy to understand when it's the first time he's kind of putting it all together. Last year was a little bit more due to circumstance, I think. I think Keller is a guy who is at his best when you just keep him in his routine, when he pitches every 5 days. And last year, there was a lot of moving and shaking and adjusting for start days because they were trying to build in those extra rest days for Paul Skeens, for Jared Jones. They're just trying to create those extra days of rest. And they went to a 6-man rotation for a little bit. And I think Keller was kind of a casualty of that, where he had to, he threw less innings. I think he made less starts. He kind of had to play with the kids' rules. And I think that kind of screwed up his routine a little bit. So, it'll be interesting. I'm recording this for full transparency before Wednesday's game. So if he goes out and gets shelled in Milwaukee this afternoon, I'm going to look dumb. And it wouldn't be the first time I did look dumb. But I think overall, I don't know. I think Keller has a higher likelihood of looking better down the stretch this year. I think he's just been more consistent overall this season. But we'll see. We'll see. And regardless of the results, if he regresses or does better, I don't think the managerial decisions have a ton to do with it. I do think they're going to go to a 6-man rotation in September when all the younger arms are up. And we'll see how that impacts him. But I think for the most part, this year, Keller has been adjusted to life in the big leagues for quite some time now. And B, there hasn't been a lot of adjusting to his routine because of how they're managing others. So that's allowed him to kind of stay more consistent with how he approaches his day-to-day. So there you go. Thanks for the question, Eileen. Bill wants to know, why does Alex Canario still have a roster spot? That's a good question. Candidly, I didn't really understand why they claimed Canario to begin with. I get that he has tools, right? He was the number 12 prospect in Chicago's org last year, but I didn't understand taking on a right-handed hitting outfielder with no options. I just didn't think that was a smart decision for what they needed at that time and still now. At the beginning of the year, you probably needed a guy who could platoon with Tommy Pham, a left-handed hitter. But they brought in this right-handed, and I know that, and they've said this on record, that they've had their eye on Canario for years. And clearly there's some sort of intrigue to him because he's been a part of a whole bunch of different organizations in the last 2-3 seasons. So everyone's tried to, take a stab at it and get him going. But I just didn't think he fit on the Pirates roster. And I think it's safe to say that was a correct assessment. They've never been able to find this guy consistent playing time. It's funny. People who cover the team, myself included, we forget he's there sometimes just because you never see him in the lineup, or you rarely see him in the lineup. And when he's there, he doesn't do much. And I think the more damning thing about it, and this is kind of gets to your answer here, Bill, is that Canario probably wouldn't be here if they thought there was any other option that was better in AAA. If they had any other outfielder in AAA right now that they thought was better than Alexander Canario and that could help their team more potentially in 2026, they'd be here. But they don't really have that. They clearly think Nick York needs more repetition, or they want Nick York to be an everyday player in AAA until he can be an everyday player in the major leagues. They don't want Nick York to come up here and get Canario playing time. And Nick York also can't play center field. I think that's another part of it, is he can play center field. He can be a backup for that spot, which is important, but I think it's pretty damning that they don't have anyone who is a better alternative than Canario, who, again, I get the intrigue. I didn't agree with them bringing him in to begin with, like I said, but I see there are some raw tools there that you can like, but it's been 4 months and they can't find a way to get this guy in the field. But they keep him around because A, they can't option him, and B, there's no one in AAA that's good enough that makes it worth designating him for assignment. If there were anyone that could play center field in AAA who they thought, yeah, this guy, he's good enough that we can justify DFAing Canario to get this guy up here, they would have done it by now. It's just how bad the system is right now. All right, we move on. Stats and I like this question, and I'm sure I'm interested to see what Stats and has to say because, I mean, stats is in his name. You're scrolling through Baseball Reference or Fangraphs. What's the first stat you look at when you're learning about a new pitcher, and what about a new position player? All right. Well, I think the basic ones, and this isn't, I think, the crux of my answer. I think on the surface, you look at the basic ones, right? You look at the WAR, you look at ERA plus. For batters, you look at weighted runs created plus or OPS plus, just how they stack up as far as value and how they measure to the rest of the league. Now, when the key to this question, though, is about a new pitcher or a new position player, which means this is probably someone who was a waiver claim or a project or, trying to figure out why the Pirates found value in this type of player, someone that they brought in. So that's how I interpreted this question. So when the obvious answers aren't there, right? When this person doesn't have a ton of established success in the major leagues and the Pirates view them to have some sort of potential that they can bring them in and turn them around, what am I looking at? For pitchers, I mean, the theme for the Pirates, this current regime, has always been they're going to go out and find someone with nasty stuff. And if they're acquiring them, especially through like a waiver wire or like a low level trade, it's probably because this guy cannot find the strike zone. He has nasty stuff. They believe that they can get him to find the zone a little bit more. And to their credit, they've had success on that front. So I'm looking at a couple of things. I'm looking at the whiff rate that they can generate. I'm looking at their K rate. I'm looking at their walk rate. And normally the track record for some of the guys the Pirates have claimed on waivers or brought in through trades, all of those things are pretty high. Guys get a lot of swing and miss, but they get a lot of strikeouts, but they also walk a lot of batters. Another thing I like to look at is the run value for each pitch a guy throws. I see that on Baseball Savant. That's how like you kind of find out like, oh, okay, like that's the pitch that they like. I mean, the Pirates, this is just my personal analysis. I think that the pitching group has an affinity for guys with nasty sliders. They love a good slider. I mean, everyone likes velocity. Sure, they like velocity too. But if you have a good slider, this organization is interested in you because they think they can build your velo up. They've done that with a lot of guys. I mean, they got Jared Jones throwing 100 before he got hurt. They can do that with other players too. But if you have a good slider, that's kind of like the building block, at least from my point of view. So if there's a player that they acquire and he has like a 2-run value on his slider per Baseball Savant, I think that there's something to build off there, or a sweeper or something along those lines, like their secondary pitch. Yeah, that's what I look at as far as pitchers are concerned. And I think that that's like been the proven track record for this regime. As far as hitters, what I'm looking at right now is bat speed. That's been the number one thing that I've been looking at anytime they acquire a prospect or, whoever they bring in. They need slugging and they need guys who can hit the ball hard and hit the ball far. And I think bat speed plays a big part in that. Now, you could also look at barrel rate. I think that's also pretty important, like the ability to barrel a baseball. But I personally think there's a certain element of bat speed that you can't teach. Like you can adjust mechanics to a certain point, but some guys are just going to be physically able to swing a bat harder than others, where everyone, if you get the proper instruction, should be able to adjust their swing path to hit a baseball more consistently. I don't know if you could say that's happened here in this organization, but that should be the mentality of you're getting it's similar to pitching, where it's like, here are some raw tools. Now let's see if they can instruct it to get more out of it. So when I look at guys like they're signing or whoever they're bringing in, if a guy has high level bat speed, I think that's at least intriguing because it gives you the potential to get something you don't have right now. We got 3 questions left. I'm going to take a quick break to hear from our show's sponsor, Greenewalt Roofing.
Hey, Pittsburgh. When you think of great roofs, you think Greenewalt Roofing Company. With over 20 years experience, Greenewalt knows your roof is your home's first line of defense from rain, wind, snow, and ice. That's why Greenewalt Roofing's standard for perfection is so important. You can trust that their team of experienced installers will treat your property like it's their own. When it comes to roof replacements, Greenewalt Roofing is Pittsburgh's only choice. Visit greenewaltroofing.com today or call 412-314-8882 to schedule your free estimate. PA contractor number 36262.
So I lied. We only have 2 questions. That's my bad. I apologize on that. We get into the first one from Derek. Derek wants to know, why does the collective of Pirates fan base, including the media, approach the team like they are legitimate about sports, and how can we get to a point of applying immense pressure on the owner to either take this seriously or sell? And I know what you're really asking, Derek, but like, they are a actual Major League Baseball team. I know that people, like, I get what Derek's saying. He's like, they're not a seriously run team, and there's a lot of valid points that could be made to back that. But I mean, they are a Major League Baseball team. That's why the media continues to cover them, because they're one of 30 in existence, and they've been so for like 150 years. They have a solid history, and they have a big fan base. Now, I think the fan base is dwindling by the day, but they still have, I mean, you look at our analytics, people still read about this team. Otherwise, we would stop covering them. If we got 0 page views on stuff, we would probably assign the Pirates beat to other things that people want to read about. But people want to read about this team. Now, to get to the actual root of your question, Derek, why do people, still care? I mean, because it's baseball, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, baseball's my favorite sport. And it's probably the favorite sport for a lot of people watching this or listening to it. And if you allow someone to ruin something you love, that's a shame on you, in my opinion. Now, if you get frustrated and you take that love and you put it someplace else, if you pick a new team, or, you just focus on college baseball or high school baseball, that's great. But the idea of allowing one person, an owner or whoever, to take away something that you value, I just don't think that's productive. I would be sad to hear anyone allow that to happen. If you like baseball, you should continue to like baseball. If you like the Pirates, I mean, the Pirates mean a lot to people, myself included. Like, I'm not a fan of them anymore, but this organization helped me learn baseball, going to the games, watching them when I was a young kid. Some of the best memories I have with friends and family growing up. Some of my best friends, my family members, my dad, especially, he and I went to every home opener from the age 10 all the way through college until I started covering the team, right? That stuff means a lot more to people than just wins and losses. I know that's the end of the day goal, and that's what everyone wants to see, but that's hard to give up when it's a part of your life. And I think those people, even though they maybe are more invested right now, they might go to more games than you, Derek. They might watch more on TV. They might read more about the team. They want what you want. They want winning. They're just not going to let, an owner or a front office or whoever you put the blame on, they're not going to allow that to take away from something that's giving them a lot of joy, despite not a lot of winning. So now let's get to the other part of this question. I mean, how can you get to the point of applying immense pressure on the owner to either take this seriously or sell? I mean, the front part of it, I think, has been done. To take it seriously, I mean, I don't know what more can be done this year. When you look at it, I think attendance is going to be down when the season ends. I think there will be less people that attended Pirates baseball games this year than last year. So I think that's a statement that can be made. They've only had 3 sellouts this year, and every single sellout, the crowd chanted, "Sell the team." I think that that's a pretty big statement right there. I mean, I tweeted about it. I posted. We wrote about that. We covered it. And it got a lot of attention, national attention. I think more people are aware about Bob Nutting's reputation as an owner now than ever before. And it's not a secret that Pirates fans are upset. Whereas I feel like, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was. Or even prior to the years of winning. It felt like it was more just, man, these guys stink, not that the fan base was pissed. I think it's pretty well known that the consumer is unsatisfied and they demand more from the organization, from ownership. So the fans have done their part this year, in my opinion. They've made a statement more than a few times. I don't think the Pirates truly understood how pissed fans were heading into this year. I think they got a taste of it at Pirate Fest, but I really don't think they got the message until the month of April. But then when the home opener went the way it did, then there was the Surfside thing, the Bucko Bricks thing, everything that unfolded in April. I think the franchise finally understood that, we have a lot of ground to make up with the people who support our product. And I don't know if that's going to lead to change, but I know that, like you asked, Derek, I know that the fans have done just about everything they possibly could have this year, aside from just not showing up. But on the flip side, if you don't show up a ton, that can be used against you. Look what just happened in Oakland. And I know that I don't want to start the idea of, the Pirates are in jeopardy of leaving. They're not. They have a beautiful ballpark. That's number one above everything else. Number two, you've got two teams playing in minor league stadiums right now. I don't think they're trying to relocate anyone else. They're trying to find a home for the Rays. They're trying to find a home for the A's. And then they would like to expand. They would like more teams, not just moving the Pirates out. I think they want to get the Pirates figured out. I think baseball would love to see the Pirates, not piss off their fans multiple times a month. But I don't think they're at risk of moving, but lower attendance will be held against you in baseball. It'll be used as a reason why payroll's not higher. It'll be used as a reason why anything that isn't to your liking, that will be brought up. Now, it's not on the fans to deliver. It is on the organization. It's on the ownership. I'm a big believer that, in order to make change, you got to get a little uncomfortable. It's time to maybe make a bigger investment. Even if you made less money than last year, dip into the red with the hope that it can turn things around. That's how business works. I think fans have made that message very clear that, look, even if we're not showing up, we still care and we demand something better. Now, will that happen? I don't know. I'm skeptical. And then finally, Derek, the final point of your question, the final word of your question, sell, never going to happen, brother. Not anytime soon. Maybe way down the line. But I don't think if it does happen, if Nutting ever does sell, it's not going to be because the fans made him. It's going to be because it reached a certain evaluation point where he was comfortable getting out. This guy, you got to look at Nutting's history as an owner. He took over when this team was almost out of money in 2007, right? Finances for this organization were horrible. So in his mind, I think he thinks he's doing a fine job as long as they're not going bankrupt. And they're not going bankrupt. So that's how he's running it, I think. I think that's a fair assessment. And I don't think that's the right way to run it. I think you should run it with the intention to win, not just simply avoid bankruptcy. It seems like mediocrity is the bar here. That's welcomed, and they can't even reach that most of the time. But the only way I think this guy would sell is if like I said, I don't think there's anything fans could do that would hurt his wallet. I just think that the game's structured in such a way where he's making money regardless, and it's going to continue to become a more valuable franchise. The only way that he could sell is if the league structure changes and the Pirates just become more valuable and he decides he's had enough and made enough money. So he's not selling. I do think the fans have applied a lot of pressure this year. And we'll see what happens. Let's see if they got through to him. Final question here from Matthew. With Cherington's comments about adding to the infield next year, who are some players you'd think they'd target in trades and free agency? I like this question, Matthew, and thank you for asking it. So I'm going to give one free agent and one trade candidate right now. And if you guys have been following along, you know I'll have a lot more names in the offseason for both trade candidates and free agents. Realistically speaking, now, like, yeah, I think they'd be a lot better team if they signed like Kyle Schwarber, or since you asked for infielders, like Gino Suarez would be great at third. And they should have enough money by clearing up Bednar and Hayes' salaries and others that aren't going to be back, like Pham, Heaney, maybe Kutch. They should have enough money to sign him. And again, you could always add to the payroll. There's no salary cap here. But realistically speaking, a free agent I have my eyes on is Willie Castro, a guy who is, I believe he won a Gold Glove. If not, he plays Gold Glove caliber defense as a utility guy. I think and this isn't meant to come off disrespectful to IKF. I think IKF's a fine player. I think this guy's just an upgraded version of IKF. I think he's a better hitter. He's a switch hitter, and I think he is a better defender as a utility man. I think he makes tons of sense for a multi-year deal. One, because I think he would be in the Pirates' price range. I think he's in his final year ARB now, and he's making, I think, under $9 million, I saw. But definitely under 10. And you could probably get him for a multi-year deal at an annual value of like 10, 11 million, maybe less. I don't know. That's tough to speculate. I'm not an agent. But I think he provides a lot of value in different ways. His bat doesn't solve the power problem, but he's a consistent hitter and would be a tremendous upgrade at either shortstop or third base. Wherever you put him, he would be a better offensive producer than what they got from those positions this season. So that's an upgrade there. I think the versatility is another part of it. I would sign him to play shortstop until Connor Griffin's ready, and then I could move him to third, or I could move him wherever. Say there's an injury at second base or in right field or wherever you need an everyday player that's better than a prospect you currently have in your organization. He's kind of your ace in the hole, right? He's your quick fix, your Josh Harrison, your super utility guy, a guy that I think they planned on IKF being before they moved Cruz to center field. So yeah, that's what I would do. I would sign him to like a 2-year deal. I'd bring him in to be the shortstop until Connor Griffin gets here, and then he's my super utility guy. He's starting every day. It's just he's starting wherever he's needed. And that could be corner outfield spots. That could be third base. That could be second base. Could be anywhere aside from like catcher and pitcher and maybe first base. But yeah, keep an eye out on that name. I really like Willie Castro. Again, switch hitter, versatile glove, plus defender, fine hitter, and also the leadership element. I mean, this guy's played meaningful baseball games before. He's played in the postseason. I think they could use a veteran Latin presence in the position player room, and I think he could be that. And they haven't really signed a lot of Latin position player veterans here. Guys who could maybe take an O'Neal Cruz under their wing a little bit. And this isn't to say that Willie Castro is better than O'Neal Cruz. I mean, he's probably a more valuable player than O'Neal this year when you're like looking at WAR and stuff, but just someone who's a little older and who's done it a little bit longer and can maybe give him a little bit of guidance. They only had one guy like that for O'Neal here. It was Carlos Santana, and O'Neal was hurt that whole season he was here, or the half season that he was here. So I like Willie Castro for a lot of reasons. I also got to know Willie when I was an intern in college for the Guardians short season A team at the time, the Mahoning Valley Scrappers. He was like 17 as a shortstop. So it'd be cool to cover him again. And I think he would provide a lot of value. As far as a trade target goes, I'll just keep it simple with one right now. I'll go Kobe Mayo. I think that there's interest on the Pirates end for him. I think there is a lot of upside potential. He comes with a ton of club control, very affordable. He's still on his rookie deal, only has like 1 year in the major leagues to begin with. The power tool is the selling point here. If he needs a little bit more time to develop, you could platoon him at first base with Horwitz and then play him at third a little bit. Or you could just make him your everyday third baseman. I don't know. I think that there's a lot to like about Kobe Mayo as far as controllable bat is concerned. So those are two infielders, one trade, one free agent that I'll name right now. But we'll have a lot more of those names for you guys to check out in the offseason. So thanks again for everyone who tuned in. My name again is Noah Hiles. Check out all of my work at post-gazette.com and subscribe to this channel where we cover you 365, 24/7 for all things Pittsburgh Pirates.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.